Good morning and welcome to Rising. In case you noticed, I am not, in fact, Crystal Ball. I am Jamal Simmons, and I'm happy to be here with Sagar.
That's right. I'm happy for the Bro Show today. We've got presidential candidate John Delaney. Crystal has an amazing interview with Bernie Sanders. We've got the RNC spokeswoman, Liz Harrington, here to talk a little bit about what's going on with the RNC fundraising numbers. And we're going to talk about everything, including that DNC climate debate dust-up that's happening right now. All that coming up today on Rising. Jamal, what are you taking a look at?
All right. Let's get to something a little bit serious. That was a very serious topic, but I want to talk about this 400th anniversary that we celebrated this weekend. 4 years ago this month, the first Africans were brought to American shores to work. These migrants were documented. Their papers, though, were bills of lading and bills of sale. They literally had receipts. And for generations, these slaves produced agricultural goods at the lowest cost for the highest profits. And for generations, liberals fought to free these slaves, give women the right to vote, end child labor and the 7-day work week, dismantle Jim Crow segregation and legal racism, while conservatives said no. Liberals fought for marriage equality, while conservatives said no. And today, liberals are fighting for comprehensive immigration reform and the fair and humane treatment of children stuck in detention camps at the border, while conservatives in the White House and the Senate say no. For 400 years, people have wanted freedom, justice, equality, and the chance to enjoy the benefits from their labor, and conservatives have objected. Sometimes those conservatives were Democrats, and sometimes those conservatives were Republicans. But when it comes to including more people in the American franchise, too often conservatives try to bar the door. Sometimes they soften their objections and they said, not now. But as Dr. King warned, too often not now really means not ever. So 400 years later, another generation of people have come to America working for low wages to help us produce low-cost goods for the highest profits. And liberals want to welcome them, while conservatives say no. It's time for conservatives to break the cycle and heed the call of the most conservative documents most Americans know, our money. 400 years later, it's time for E Pluribus Unum. It's time to make one nation out of many, without the pain and tragedy too often felt by those who just wanted to live free and prosper in our republic.
I mean,
it's time for us to get this out of the just the sort of back and forth and get back to the moral footing of who we are as a country.
I think, though, Jamal, it's much more nuanced than this. I mean, I'm reading the biography of Frederick Douglass right now. There's a massive debate in the abolition movement about whether they should include women in that, and they should focus purely on the abolition of slavery. The truth is that much of these politics are much more nuanced, and the discussion is not there. I mean, actually, it was the cranks, technically, in the abolition movement at the time. They were like, why are you focusing on women's rights? I mean, this is not something that has always been a universal liberal versus conservative issue. And I think that, painting conservatives as just like purely racist from the beginning is very much like a critical race theorist tactic that has been used to dismantle and to really delegitimize legitimate arguments against some of these things.
There are legitimate arguments about how to do something, right? But the fundamental question is whether or not we should be doing something, whether or not America is a place where everybody should feel invested and feel involved. And I think too often we've had conservatives who stood in the way and said, no, this is not the way it's supposed to be. And I think right now, if you look around, listen, Donald Trump is exploding the deficit. Donald Trump is undermining international agreements. He is doing all he's changing the whole nature of how we kind of see the presidency in many ways. So what is it that conservatives are conserving? I think conservatives are conserving a culture that excludes people versus one that welcomes them.
Well, we won't agree on that one today, but we have some next on Rising. Crystal's far-reaching interview with Senator Bernie Sanders. She hit the campaign trail in Kentucky, and she got to sit down with him.
Sanders talks filibusters, climate change, and Bolsonaro, but we'll tell you who he really went in on when Rising continues.